What if Mace Windu killed Palpatine? In Revenge of the Sith, we witness the iconic duel between Mace Windu and Palpatine, which ultimately results in Windu disarming and kicking Palpatine to the floor. In the original timeline, Anakin rushes in at this moment, chopping Windu's arm off and saving Palpatine's life. This set in motion Order 66, the fall of the Jedi and rise of the Empire. And well, we all know what happens next. But what if this wasn't the case? And what if Mace Windu killed Palpatine before Anakin was able to save him? How would that change the Star Wars timeline we all know and love today? Let's start today's story on Coruscant during the climactic duel between Windu and Palpatine. As their swings grow faster, they both collide with the window, destroying it. Mace focuses his Vapod, using Palpatine's dark side powers against him, and causing him to be the superior fighter. This leads to him finding an opening and exploiting it, where he disarms Palpatine and kicks him to the ground. As he squirms, Anakin rushes in, and we reach the exact moment in Revenge of the Sith. But in this story, Windu doesn't begin by telling Palpatine that he is under arrest. Instead, he takes matters into his own hands. He raises his saber above his head, and before Anakin has reached them, he swings his blade with a force he has never thought possible, removing Palpatine's head from his shoulders. Anakin screams in defiance, alarms beaming in his mind. No, Anakin thought to himself. What did Windu just do? Rage and anger overwhelms the Chosen One. Windu's immediate emotion is confusion. Why is Skywalker so upset? Tears stream down Anakin's face as he looks at Mace, telling him that he has just killed Padme, that Palpatine was the only one who could save her. Windu was extremely confused, and he simply told Anakin that the Clone Wars were over. Palpatine had to die. He was the Sith Lord. But Anakin snaps. All he was thinking about was his wife. If Palpatine was dead, he would never learn the secrets to saving Padme, and she would surely be dead. Memories of their relationship flash in Anakin's eyes. The day they met on Tatooine, reconnecting on Naboo a decade later, and finally getting married and pledging to share the rest of their lives together. Because of Windu, he won't get to spend the rest of his life with Padme. In one motion, the Chosen One ignites his sapphire lightsaber and announces that Windu will pay for what he has done. Mace tells Skywalker to calm down, asking why this means Senator Amidala is dead. But Anakin disregards his comment and leaps at Windu, swinging with all of his might. Rage swelled within the Chosen One, who couldn't think about anything except his target. Windu simply assumed the back foot and defended. He parried when he could, but he knew that he needed to get Anakin into a position where they could talk. As much as Windu disliked Anakin, he actually respected him, but he didn't understand for a second what was going on. As the fight reaches its climax, Anakin's swings become sloppy. He was fighting with hate, not with technique and skill. This allowed Windu to slowly amp up his abilities, and he finally disarms and defeats Anakin, knocking him to the floor. Windu demands to know the truth. With Anakin's saber deignited and on the other side of the room, he finally calmed down. At this moment, Anakin had nothing to lose. He explains the full truth to Windu. He said that he and Padme are married and that she is pregnant with his child, but last week, he began having visions of her dying in childbirth. Windu's face contorted in a mixture of anger and shock. This whole time Skywalker was married? This whole time he had been lying to the Council and breaking the Jedi Code? Before Windu's rage could rise even more, he breathed and settled his emotions, just like a true Jedi Master would. He would hear Skywalker's perspective. Anakin continued, explaining that Palpatine said that he had the secret to save her from death, but now that Palpatine is dead, Padme will now surely die. It was at this moment where Windu sighed. He was letting out his tiredness from both battles, but also letting out his immediate frustration. Windu always disliked Anakin, and now he had just tried to fight him with murderous intent. He tells Anakin that the Jedi Council might be able to help with his problem. Anakin immediately smiled, but before his grin could get too big, Mace continued, explaining that if the Jedi help, Anakin must promise to resign and leave the Jedi Order. He isn't fit to be a Jedi anymore. Anakin nodded. He didn't care anymore. All he wanted was his wife and children's safety. Windu appreciated that if it wasn't for Anakin, he never would have defeated Palpatine or even discovered that he was the Sith Lord. This is why he was giving him grace. They both look at the body of Palpatine. This would be difficult to explain to the Senate, they both thought. Hey guys, make sure to check out our saber shop Fantasy Sabers for the best NeoPixel sabers on the market. We have a bunch of perfect replicas and other insane Padawan sabers for sale. Check them out on our website, first link in the description below, and grab your own one today. From here, they go to the Jedi Council and explain the situation. Anakin essentially repeats what he said to Windu, his marriage to Padme, her pregnancy, and finally that he's been having nightmares of her dying in childbirth. The council sat in silence for a moment after Anakin finished telling them everything. No one could truly believe it. It didn't make any sense. Anakin was the chosen one and meant to bring peace to them all, but this whole time he's had a wife and soon a child. Mace Windu asked him directly why he trusted such visions, and Anakin said because they felt exactly like the dreams he had of his mother before she died, and he was too late to save her. Yoda leaned forward and told Anakin that fear of loss is a path to the dark side, that if he clings too hard he will bring about the very thing that he fears. Ki-Adi-Mundi shook his head and said that attachment is forbidden for this very reason, that the Jedi cannot let love blind them from their duty. Anakin let his emotions take over and snapped back at Mundi, condemning his opinion under the fact that Ki-Adi-Mundi had 4 wives of his own and therefore should have no say in this conversation. The Jedi calmed Anakin and he apologized, but it was clear what emotional state he was in. Anakin said that love is not weakness, that without love there is no life, and that the Jedi do not understand this because they have never had someone they would do anything to protect. Plo Koon told him that the Force is not meant to be controlled for selfish ends, that visions can be false and dangerous, and that sometimes the Force shows only possibilities, not truths. But Anakin said that was too great a risk, that Padme was carrying his child, and he could not sit back and do nothing. Yoda told him that letting go was the only way to find peace, but Anakin cried out that peace was useless if his wife and children died. This back and forth continued for over an hour as they tried to come to a reasoned conclusion. Everyone had different thoughts, but Anakin stood in the center, essentially only taking one answer as the truth. But before anyone could say anything more, the doors to the council chambers burst open and Obi-Wan walked in. He had just returned from Utapau and killed General Grievous. He looked at Anakin, then at the council, and asked what had happened. Windu explained that Skywalker had spoken of having visions of Senator Padme Amidala dying, and that Palpatine had promised to save her, and this was why Anakin had almost fallen to the Sith. Obi-Wan's face fell, and for a moment he was speechless. Plo Koon leaned forward and asked Anakin when the last time he had a vision of Padme was, and Anakin said 2 days ago. Yoda then asked how frequent these visions were before that, and Anakin admitted that for about a week he had had them every few hours, never leaving his mind, tormenting him day and night. Master Windu said that it was possible that Palpatine had planted these visions in Anakin's mind, to draw him closer to the dark side, to make him his new apprentice. The other masters nodded slowly, the idea making sense to them, and even Anakin stopped to think. It did make sense, he thought. Palpatine had spent over a decade manipulating him as a mentor, befriending him, and when he thought about their conversations, well, they weren't necessarily pro-Jedi. This was essentially the council accepting that the vision wasn't true, but Anakin couldn't accept that. What if it was not a lie? What if the visions were true? He could not take that chance. He shook his head and told the council that even if the visions were false, he would not forgive himself if he did nothing and they turned out to be real. He said he must find a way to protect Padme. The council sat and thought until Obi-Wan told the council that he will accompany Anakin to the restricted section to look through the Jedi archives. Maybe he will find something there. The masters looked at each other and then at Yoda, who reluctantly approved this and told the master and apprentice they could go. So Anakin and Obi-Wan go to the Jedi archives where Kenobi uses his rank as Jedi Master to open the restricted section. As they walked inside, Anakin was amazed at what he was seeing. Hundreds of rows of ancient texts, rooms full of holochroms. He couldn't believe it. His entire life he had been dreaming of coming into this room. It was always treated like a myth when he was a youngling and Padawan, but now he's in here. Both of them begin scanning the rows of texts, seeing what they can find. Anakin broke the silence by telling Obi-Wan that he had already made a decision, that once all of this was over and Padme was safe, he was going to leave the Order. Obi-Wan stopped and looked at him with shock, saying that Anakin could not simply turn his back on the Jedi, that the galaxy still needed him, but Anakin shook his head and said it was alright. He didn't need the Jedi anymore, he just needed Padme and the life they could have together. He said that he wanted to raise their child without hiding, to live in peace, not in fear of someone finding out about them. Obi-Wan sighed, and though he wanted to fight him on this, he simply nodded, saying that if this was truly Anakin's choice, then he would not stand in the way and would support him. As they walked deeper into the archives, Anakin thought back to the moment he and Padme were married in secret on Naboo, hoping that it would spark his senses and he would find something. But suddenly, Anakin's comlink buzzed. When Anakin answered it, Padme spoke. She said that she had gone into labor, the baby was coming and they had no time left. Panic shot through Anakin as he turned to Obi-Wan, fear flashing across his face. But Obi-Wan didn't hesitate. He told Anakin they needed to go at once, and together they left the Jedi Temple. They flew through the city until they reached the Coruscant Medical Facility. Anakin paced back and forth outside the room as Obi-Wan tried to keep his calm. Hours passed like days, but at last, Padme gave birth with Anakin right next to her. In the end, the visions never came to fruition, and Padme Amidala survived. Anakin and Padme smiled as they held their newborn twins, who they called Jyn Skywalker and Leia Skywalker. Padme playfully pushes Anakin, telling him that she knew he didn't have anything to worry about, that now they will be a happy family and nothing can get in the way of that. Anakin thought back to his visions of her dying, the terrible images that had consumed him night after night, and he realized now that they were not the truth. He had been trapped by fear, but it was all a lie created by the man who had manipulated him ever since he arrived on Coruscant, Sheev Palpatine. Anakin bent down beside Padme, kissing her forehead and telling her that he loved her more than ever, that they were finally safe. Padme smiled and said their family was whole now, and for the first time in years, Anakin felt peace. Obi-Wan stood at the doorway as he watched his brother find the peace that he had fought so hard for. When he was in the restricted section, he didn't understand Anakin's decision to leave the Order, but now he did. This is what he had fought for, and as his master, he couldn't be any more proud of his apprentice. For the first time since he was a boy with his mother, Anakin was truly happy, and nothing else mattered. Back at the Jedi Temple, Anakin stands before the council with Padme and their twins. Some of the masters like Plo Koon, Shakti, and Obi-Wan smiled as Anakin introduced his twins to them. As his friends, they were proud of him. While Anakin knew that he would miss being a Jedi Knight, he also had a promise to uphold. He formally tells the Jedi Council that he is resigning from the Order. The next chapter of his life is somewhere else, and he is excited to explore it. Windu was content and thankful that Anakin had upheld his end of the bargain. Windu didn't have any animosity against Skywalker, but as a proud Jedi, Mace's beliefs were set in stone, and Anakin had broken the Jedi code on numerous occasions, so he couldn't be a Jedi anymore. Anakin thanks the Council for everything over the last 13 years of his life, and he would not be the man he is today without them. But now he wants to go and live with Padme on Naboo and raise their family. The Council respects his decision and wishes him luck. For the final time, Anakin bows and walks out of the council chambers. Anakin and Padme are now living happily on Naboo with their family. They sit in the tall grass as their children play, and they are happier than ever. Neither of them had felt so much joy in the world. There was no joy that compared to raising Jyn and Leia. Anakin knew that when the time came, he would teach them the ways of the Force, but not the rigid code of the Jedi, but the flexible beliefs of Skywalker, understanding that attachments are okay and something not to be feared. As Padme and Anakin watched in happiness as their children ran circles around them in the sun, a ship flew overhead and landed beside them. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka walk out. The kids run straight into their arms. In their mind, this was their aunt and uncle. Unfortunately, Obi-Wan tells Anakin that Yoda has passed away. Anakin is upset, but is proud of the life the Grand Master lived. In his place, Mace Windu is now Grand Master, and Obi-Wan said that he has been chosen as Vice Grand Master of the Order. Anakin couldn't be more proud of his brother. By this point, Ahsoka had also rejoined the Order, pleased with the direction they had taken following the end of the Clone Wars. Padme called out to their children to come inside, and the 6 of them sat at the dinner table enjoying a nice dinner. They are all at peace, and a very happy family. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Anakin Was Trained from Birth and What If Anakin Left the Order to Train Luke and Leia. Please check out Fantasy Sabers if you're looking for an affordable saber to add to your collection. We offer RGB, Xenopixel or Profi in various sizes and designs. Also check out our membership program to be able to watch our videos early. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.